Okay, this parsha is very interesting in that it is a complete break from everything we've been learning up until this point. From before this point, everything has been a story, and it's been interesting, and it reads as a tale, an epic adventure. And all this is until the very last part is a list of rules. It's called mishpatim. Mishpatim means basically civil law, and that's what the Torah delves right into. After the glamour and the glorification and the unique historical moment of giving of the Torah, Mount Sinai, the Torah delves right into the cases of what do you do with a Jewish slave, and how, and monetary cases. And this body of Torah, a lot of it is in the book of damages, which is a very large part of the Talmud. It totals 400 out of 27. It's 1/7 of the Talmud goes into a lot of the laws that are stated here, and another whole bunch about slavery and property ownership is in a different part of the Talmud called Kedushin, all about marriage, because marriage is all about blending of properties and what do you do with the different properties and who owns the properties. So all this is worked out. So the question everybody has, and we'll look at some of these laws, everyone has is, why does the law follow right after the giving of the Torah? Why do we go into this this detail, and why would that follow? All these details about laws in society, and it's obvious if you think about it. First of all, this parsha is not really mishpatim. That's the name of it, mishpatim. But the beginning, and all parshas come from the first line of the verse that begins that parsha. So somewhere in it, there's that word. The real translation is, and these are the ordinances that you shall place before them, right after Mount Sinai. And it says, and, it's very important, the conjunction and means, yes, you have Mount Sinai, and you have the law. You have to know how to live. The whole thing about the Torah is how to live in a perfect society. So they said that you learn from this that you would have the temple up in Jerusalem where everybody would come and serve, and right next to the temple, built into the temple, is where the Supreme Court resides. The Supreme Court was 70 elders called the Sanhedrin. It was a meritocracy. Everybody, with rabbis, everybody knows kind of who's smarter than who. If two rabbis meet, they kind of know which one's got the edge on the other one intellectually. In the Sanhedrin, they knew who was number 1 and who was number 70. And at the bottom of their, and they would sit and they would sit like tiered, like in a college lecture room, and 100. Oh, sorry, 70 should be 70, and then they had beneath them students would sit in and listen, and they were like the next crop that was coming through. To be on the Sanhedrin, you had to know foreign languages, you had to have children because you had to be merciful, and even not to say that a person who didn't have children wasn't merciful, but it was a requirement that you had to have children. You had to know the pain of raising children that are yours, that are your blood, in order to have the strain, the characteristic of mercy built into you. That was one of the rules. So the Sanhedrin was the Supreme Court, and there were other courts around the country, but this is where all the big questions were brought. Everybody always says, why do the Jews argue all the time? You know, everything's an argument. Well, it really wasn't that way. When you had the Sanhedrin, they decided the cases. It's when we don't have the Sanhedrin, and we haven't had the Sanhedrin for 2,000 years, that's where a lot of the questions arise, and that's why you have a Talmud, because the Talmud is a lot of those cases that haven't been decided or were decided later through the Talmud and subsequent writings. So laws, we are a people of laws. And people say, well, you're a kitchen religion. Because everything's in the kitchen, this is kosher, not kosher, but if you think about it, we all operate on laws. We have the law, you each have your own Torah that you operate life with. And law is what makes the man. And that these laws, I wrote this in the Jewish Journal this week, and that the law that we have in the Torah, some of it is very counterintuitive. I will quote you one such law for you to think about. Maybe we can discuss it for a few minutes, and that is, if you encounter an ox of your enemy or your donkey wandering, you shall return it to him repeatedly. If you see the donkey of someone you hate crouching under its burden, would you refrain from helping him? You shall help him repeatedly. And what's that saying? That's saying you see the donkey of your enemy, meaning your friends, you also see your friend's donkey. This is what's inferred. Your friend's donkey is also under its burden. Who do you help first? You help your enemy. Why would I help my enemy? I want to help my friend. Because, and the enemy, by the way, is not an enemy in your heart. He's a real enemy. In Jewish law, he would be defined as, this guy is your enemy. Yeah, he is your enemy. We're not saying you're helping Hitler, okay? And really it's in the context of being Jewish. The guy's Jewish. But let's not, he's your enemy. Whatever. The guy you can't stand. You will help him, and for good reason. Maybe he sued you in court once or something. So we have to break you of your tendencies and make you into a godly person. And your grievances on this person and how you envision this person, it's personal, it's subjective. We're gonna make you help him. It's gonna make you a better person. And I don't know about you, but I can feel this myself. Oh gosh, I couldn't imagine helping that guy over my friend. I mean, what this guy's done to me. It's okay. It'll make you the man you really want to be, and the Torah is going to force you to do it. And that's the laws of the Torah. You look at those laws and you're like, I don't want to do this, or I don't think this is good for me. And the Torah is saying, no, this is really deep down inside, this is the best thing for you. So that's a lot of that's a kind of an overview of looking at the laws. Does anybody want to say anything on that? Okay. Is everybody still breathing? I don't hear you.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm breathing.
Okay, so you get that. Okay. Let's talk. Okay, so the first thing the Torah goes into is it talks about slavery and being a Jewish. You could be a Jewish slave. Now, don't think slavery as like what's going on in the Sudan these days, or Nazi death camps, or the plantation in the South. That is not Jewish slavery. That is barbarism. Jewish slavery was a different system completely. Jewish slavery, the word that we don't have, it's not slavery. The word is eved, the one who works. He's a worker. He's an eved. And he's a servant. We consider ourselves Eved Hashem. We are servants of God. And that is the better light to look at this. It could be the following. The guy has no money. The guy steals because he has no money. The guy gets caught. In most societies, what do you do with a guy who steals and you catch him? What do you do with him?
Punish him. Jail.
Okay, how do you punish him?
Put him in jail.
Put him in jail. What's he learn in jail?
Nothing.
He learns more than nothing. He could learn.
Yeah, he learns to be a better thief.
Yeah, and he learns to become, a radical Islamist. He learns a lot of things. Some guys get law degrees and become, find their gods, and become better people from it. But for the most part, who wants to hire a guy? I mean, who wants to hire? I remember I worked at a restaurant. We used to, take guys in on parole, and oh man, these guys were just the worst. They're just, prison really kills a person. That's not how Torah looks at this. We take a person, and if it's big enough and the guy can't pay back the money, the guy will work for the family. Now that's kind of funny. You stole from me, and I'm going to have you working in my household and working on, polishing the silver. Maybe some of it will disappear. Be that as it may, the system is, if you can't pay restitution for what you stole and you have to go into slavery, then you'll work 2 shifts, but you'll get good food, and if there's only one pillow in the house, you get it before the master of the house gets it. You cannot, and when you leave with a golden parachute. And meanwhile, you work for how much time you have to work up until 6 years. On the 7th year, the sabbatical year, you're released, and you'll pay back your debt, and you'll learn to become more of an exemplary human being. And they could also have non-Jewish slaves. And non-Jewish slaves had rights and were half Jews, and to the point where they also would keep Shabbos. They could not drive on Shabbos. They couldn't, flip the light switch on Shabbos. These are non-Jews. They worked in the house. And when the Jews would release them, if they decided to release them, it's a whole different law with the non-Jews and the Jews, but they became Jewish. So the whole idea of slavery in Judaism in these times, remember, this is 3,300 years ago, was different. And we get a lot of laws of how to work with an employee from the laws of slavery, because that's really what they were. They were like employees, but they were indentured servants. So that is now the whole idea of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Does anybody really think that's what we do? What is that really saying? And what's that really saying?
That the punishment should fit the crime.
Okay, punishment should fit the crime monetarily. So an eye for an eye means if you took out the eye of a piano player, that's one thing. If you took out the hand, but if you took out the hand of a piano player, of a concert pianist, that's another thing. You're going to owe a lot more money if you are at fault for, breaking his fingers of a world famous concert pianist than you are if you do something to his eye. Whereas if the guy is a world class pilot and you mess up his eye versus you mess up his fingers, you're going to have to pay more for that damage because his eyes are more valuable than his fingers. So eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, all that does not mean if you break a guy's hand, we break your hand. That is stupidity, and Islam takes it literally. That's because they don't have an oral Torah. See, all this that we're learning of the laws of covering a pit, and if you get caught stealing someone's donkey, and you get caught stealing. All this is it takes volumes of discussion and understanding. There's an oral law that parallels it, that then explains it on a much. And this is just code, but it's code that we then helps us understand what is the right way to pursue collecting damages. So the Jews, we learn about the laws of borrowing and the laws of guarding and the laws of theft and damaging someone's property by cause or accidentally, and doing personal injury and murder, and lays out the foundation of civil law from God, not from people. Because people, how we lay out civil law is convenience, whereas God's laying out civil law in terms of perfecting society and the person. Okay, then the end of the Parsha ends with God saying, okay, I'm going to send, he says, I'm going to send an angel before you, and you're going to go in the land of Israel now.
We're at 8:18.
Okay. So let me leave you with this thought. I want to give you this one thought, and that is, let's forget about the end. I'm going to give you this last thought. One of the most famous lines from this week's Parsha is that if someone is healed, if someone is injured, that we use the word yirapeh, yirfa. You will be certainly healed. If you have to go to a doctor, they use a double word for healing. You shall certainly be healed, is how we translate it. And the rabbis say that's the permission to go to a doctor. And you say, why do I need permission to go to a doctor? If I'm not feeling well, I'm going to go to a doctor. It says, no, but who sent you your illness? The answer is, God sent you your illness. God broke your foot. God did whatever. But we go to these people called doctors because they're conduits from God. And Don't get hung up on the medicine. Don't get hung up on the doctor. Choose the best. Do your research. But know in the end, our illnesses and our accidents and our healing all comes from God. Don't make these people and their medicines into idol worship. We say, please have this doctor heal me. Please have this medicine heal me. That is the proper way to go about our health. I just want to add that in. Okay? Good. I'll see everybody next week. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, guys.
Shabbos.
I'll get back to you either later or early in the week, Mike.
Okay, good Shabbos.
All right.
Bye.